So those 5 other teams that were not within the city limits of New York, those
No
were
chance.
all just, it was him throwing a dart at the list.
dart.
Being like, I
Okay,
think I want to go to Dallas. I think I want to go to Philly. That would be funny.
Oh my God.
So none of those actually made sense. So you couldn't have seen him playing in any of those other spots. He wasn't serious. You're saying he was just blowing smoke with the rest of those.
Complete smoke
okay.
screen. Complete. Kyrie, this is what he
He's
does.
predictably unpredictable, Freddie.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. So, like, I could absolutely see him saying, no, I'm good. Brooklyn was fun for a little bit, but I'm going to go, let's go to Memphis. Let's go somewhere random. Think of the most random spot in the NBA you could go to. And Kyrie Irving's like, that's my next challenge.
Yeah.
I could absolutely see that happen. This is somebody who has so many otherworldly interests outside of basketball, whether we like to poke holes in those things and see if they can actually stand up to what he's saying they can, or if they're like legitimate, real things that he's interested in. And he's not just trying to bloviate just to get attention. So I could absolutely look at this situation and say, there's no way I can bank on him.
Yeah.
I mean, he could tomorrow he could retire. He could be somebody who's like, you know what?
True.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I've had enough basketball. I did all of this. I, had everybody circle the wagons for 48 hours. And, I'm actually good on basketball. I just can't put all my stock into believing he ends his career in Brooklyn because he's always chasing something. He's 30 years old. He has all the time on his side, guys. And who's to say what tomorrow will bring? It's whatever way the wind blows. I mean, that's what we're going with Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie is chasing Kyrie. Kyrie better realize he's never going to catch Kyrie, because whatever it is, I don't question anybody wanting to chase something if it means that much to you.
Yeah.
Whatever the minefield is going to be, whatever the broken glass on the streets are going to be, if you can deal with that and go through that and you can believe you can come on the other side, I'm not going to question it. I may not like it, but I'm not in your shoes. And I'm not going to tell you how to walk in those shoes. I'm not going to tell you how to put on those pants. I'm not going to tell you how to tie your tie right when it comes to Kyrie Irving. But when it comes to somebody like him, whatever that is, it can be a moment-by-moment thing, but this area means so much to him. That's why he could have gone anywhere else and probably taken Kevin Durant with him in terms of playing off-Broadway. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to be here. Because if the Knicks were in a better situation, both of those guys would be at the New York Knicks. They wouldn't be with the Brooklyn Nets.
And they were on his list.
And they were on his list, but were they really?
Yeah.
They were on the, what it's like, you have a Christmas list, and the toy that you don't want, you put at the bottom.
At the bottom.
And you hope your aunt, uncle don't see, well, he wanted that. I'm going to get that for him instead.
It ends up on sale.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where the Knicks were. The Knicks were like as seen on TV list. That's where they were with Kyrie Irving. They had no chance of getting him. But the Brooklyn Nets in the tri-state area, that meant a lot to him. And Kevin Durant said, if you're going to do that there, I'm going to do that with you.
Well, what do you think KD's thinking today then?
Oof.
I don't have to rework my summer into thinking about my next destination. I can actually relax the next couple months, but he's probably looking over his shoulder a little bit, wondering when the next shoe's going to drop with Kyrie Irving. To me, if you're Kevin Durant, you're probably worried about, okay, this guy all of a sudden last week is talking to LeBron James, ready to leave me and leave the Brooklyn Nets and go somewhere else, even though Freddie doesn't think the list was real, which is fine, but he was at least putting that out there. So if you're Kevin Durant, you don't know which way Kyrie Irving is going to go on any given day. So right now, I think Katie's kind of like, phew, it's fine.
Sure.
We're all staying together
okay.
next year. They could have, one of the highest octane offensive, starting five with the two of them, Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, that whole group. Kevin Durant's probably looking at that right now and saying, yeah, I'm excited about that. But what's the next thing that's going to take Kyrie Irving's attention away from basketball? What's the next thing I need to worry about? And how it's going to affect my future? Because like we said on the show yesterday, your actions, if you play a team sport, are not contained in a vacuum. They don't just affect you. Kyrie Irving's decisions and his entire actions with the Brooklyn Nets throughout the last couple days, that all affects Kevin Durant because he's got to be thinking about what he's going to do next. Fortunately for now, he can stay put, but again, just waiting on the next thing to happen with Kyrie Irving to see how that's going to affect KD.
You know who Kyrie Irving is? And it just popped into my head. 2 words popped into my head. Relentless and Rodman. It is relentless being around Kyrie Irving if you're a teammate. Lord knows it's relentless talking about Kyrie Irving in the media because he's always doing something or something is around him that a lot of times may not be of his own creation. But it is relentless being around him. But he reminds me so much of Dennis Rodman, not to that crazy level. Dennis Rodman, I mean,
he basically took a vacation in the middle of the season
exactly.
last year, and didn't
Right.
Rodman do that during the finals?
Yeah, the difference is Rodman went to Vegas, Kyrie went to Kyrie land to try to find himself. That's the main difference. And Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen sent out a search party for Dennis Rodman. Kyrie said, I'm going to be over here.
They knew where he was the entire time.
Just don't tell anybody. Keep that on the hush-hush and the QT, but you know where I'm at. Dennis Rodman was in so many different places in Vegas. Michael Jordan's like, what in the going on here? That's who he reminds me of, because Dennis Rodman, for whatever was going on in his history, I'm not trying to make light of it, but whatever issues he had to deal with, he was trying to figure that out. Kyrie Irving doesn't have the same kind of issues, but in terms of, all right, if I don't want to do something, I'm going to go elsewhere. That's where he reminds me so much of Dennis Rodman to a different level in this kind of generation, because Kyrie Irving, I think, does things not to try to place bad light on other things. He's worried about collateral damage when it comes to people that have been loyal to him or what people think about him. Dennis Rodman didn't give a you know what. No. He said, what do you think about me? It's on you. Kyrie Irving is back to that level, but not to the point that he doesn't want to alienate somebody like a Kevin Durant or keep alienating people from his past, that this way he doesn't have anybody on his side, doesn't want to feel alone.
Well, he pushes the envelope until he gets far enough where he is almost alienating Kevin Durant. Like, this whole situation, I do wonder, it's again, like, you've got to look out for yourself. Kevin Durant has to look out for himself. Kyrie Irving, whether we like it or not, has to look out for himself. But I'm wondering, in this entire process, how much did he consider Kevin Durant? How much did he consider everything he put KD, his other teammates? There are other players on this basketball team than Kevin Durant. How much did he consider what he put them through all last season, not showing up? And then just to, like, toy around with this thing, to realize, like, again, Kyrie is a smart individual. Yeah. He went to Duke. Like, he doesn't.
I didn't know Jay Will was here.
He knew that he didn't have the leverage to make this happen. The Brooklyn Nets would have had to facilitate a sign and trade. Yes, they gave him permission because they were smart. They called his bluff and said, yeah, go test it.
Yeah,
go opt out. Go test free agency. See how it works out for you and your bank account. But
thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.